These are official 1923 pictures shared by Paramount Plus. They're a preview of what's to come on Season 2, and I low-key freaked out when I got them because someone very important is missing, and y'all, that cannot be great news.
I suppose it is not anticipation at all. It is fear.
Subscribers know how this scene ends for Alexandra because we went deep during our Episode 3 recap video. There is now some new information, or at least a lack of new information, that when compared to what we know about other characters, allows for a very reasonable jump to conclusions. Y'all, I think this is going to be the ugliest, most cringe-worthy episode of 1923 to date, and I won't wait to tell you why.
I think we should bring our little doll out to play, don't you think? Would you like that?
I really didn't want to talk about this scene. It's just the worst. But I believe we're going to get a face full of Don Whitfield and his two women this coming week. He was one of several characters not seen at all last week, which means they'll make up for it. Don really has two plot lines. There's his blackmail of Jacob Dutton to get control of the ranch, and preview pictures zoom in on that here, here, and here. We're not likely to see any violence quite yet. I think this is more of that slow squeeze, and then an advancement in his plan to build a ski lodge to Montana.
I've never met a man who scares me. Not once in my life. Until now. The man scares me, Clyde.
Banner looks very concerned with Don's business. Don't blame him, the guy's a mad scientist. Then there's his abuse of the two women who Banner hired in Season 1. If you remember, Don is into some real sadistic forms of pleasure, and one of the women is living naked in a closet at the moment. If you think that ends well for these women, I'd love to know why in the comments section below. I'm not optimistic, but I also think they'll probably live through it. You know who might not live through this episode? This guy, Zane.
I must drill into his skull and suction out the blood.
Oh, I guess we ought to find you a drill, Doc.
Well, I have a drill, but I have no anesthesia.
Jacob Dutton's wagon boss has a subdural hematoma, and that means the doctor has to drill into his skull. During this week's episode on the Dutton Rules podcast, I really questioned where this plot line is headed. The problem is, we didn't see enough of Zane and his family in Season 1 to be invested in their home life, so now, as Jacob spends all of his time trying to save him, it feels a little shoehorned in. My thinking is that Zane and his wife, seen here with Cara Dutton, play a really big role at the end of this season, or maybe even in the lives of the next generation. Otherwise, what's the point? Other than to highlight another way that life was difficult in the early 20th century. I'm kind of calling Uncle on that right now. I get it. Things were miserable. Comment below if you agree or disagree, and hang tight to the end of this video because we're going to answer the best questions, comments, and conspiracy theories from Episode 3, including one that really asks an uncomfortable question head on. I also asked you who is the best actor ever in the Yellowstone universe, and the results are pretty conclusive to say the least. But first, Alex is next, and y'all, I'm worried.
I suppose it is not anticipation at all. It is fear.
This was last week's big cliffhanger, and I guess if you've not studied this show like you're going to be tested on it like I have, it'd be reasonable to wonder what happens next. Fortunately, the trailer released before the show tells us,
my wife is lost to me.
Bowler Hat attempts to mug Alexandra while she's using the ladies' room at Grand Central Station. Does she get away? I think she does, because of this microsecond clip from a trailer video. Did you miss it? Okay, here, I'll screenshot it. That is her running through the train station, and now I'm going to run through all of those photos from Episode 4 that began this video and look for Alexandra, and she's not there. Nothing. In fact, after this train station sequence, Alex is missing from any promotional content released by Paramount. All of her teaser and trailer clips are used up, and that's only concerning because there is so much for everyone else. We got Elizabeth and Jack enjoying an emotional reunion. We have Jacob and Cara looking very concerned outside what could be a hospital room. We have this ominous photo of Donald Whitfield's men throwing a body over the cliff at the train station. And we have so much evidence that Spencer boards not one, but two trains in the coming weeks. In fact, it looks like he's going to board a freight train in Episode 4. Here's a photo. I do not, in my heart, believe that this is going to be Alex's final episode. In fact, I'd be pretty angry if that was the case. But it's worth wondering if she survives all the way to Montana, and what happens to her when she gets there. I mean, there's going to be some sort of unbelievably sad death coming, right? Actor Julia Schleifer isn't talking either. When we asked if she had a really good memory of working with Harrison Ford, here's what she told us.
I can't say if I got to work with them. I can't tell you, but I know.
But the second half of that answer is a little bit more informative.
I chopped my hair off after we wrapped, and I was on set. And I walk out of the hair trailer, and I just see Harrison barreling towards me, and he goes, "Let me get in there." And he like shakes my hair up and was like a dog. and I was like, "You like it?" And he was like, "Mm-hmm."
Yeah, why would Alex be there as filming Wrapped if she wasn't in one of the final episodes? Episode 4 is called Journey, the Rivers of Iron, and after this week, we'll officially be halfway through season 2. I think it's going to be a big Banner and Donald Whitfield episode, which I'm actually okay with because the acting is so good with those two. In fact, maybe I should have included either Jerome Flynn or Timothy Dalton when I asked who the best actor from the Yellowstone universe is. As you can see, Kelly Riley as Beth Dutton is the overwhelming favorite, with 45% of the vote. She's followed by Kevin Costner, Helen Mirren, and Sam Elliott. Look for a new poll question on Monday during a recap that also promises to be heavy on the Dutton Ranch life. We'll also spend significant time in Texas, with Teonna and her father runs his horse, plus Teonna's new lover Pete Plentyclouds. The two lovebirds weren't in episode 3 either, and photos show that their plan to join up with the Cowboys is advancing. That's actually bad news because
Mexico is where they'll head. I say we check out cow camps, get Amarillo, make sure that bitch's face is on every corner post.
Joining me now is my Dutton Rules podcast co-host Addison Hager for our weekly Q&A segment, as heard on the Dutton Rules podcast. Addison, who's first today?
The first one is from Sarah, who says, as a history teacher, I love all the ways this show works hard to bring real history into the story. So I find it frustrating when they get smaller details wrong. As a British citizen and one with a title, Alex would have had a passport at this time. The British required passports after World War I. U.S. citizens didn't use them until after World War II. But Alexandra, with all her travel, surely would have packed her passport on the most important journey of her life, and obviously would have been let right in, with or without a marriage certificate because of her title.
Well, she certainly got around Africa pretty easily. So she clearly had a passport at one time.
I'm kind of thinking, like, since Africa and then her journey to America, she went home. Do you think her family took it from her, maybe, to prevent her from traveling?
I think that's the theory we have to sort of go with. They took her travel documents, so she had to kind of get in this way. But, you know, she seemed like she was raised in a family that wouldn't do those types of things. Like, she was very strong-willed and independent, so she had to learn that from somebody and had to have been given some form of independence. But I think that's the working theory, is that her travel documents must have been taken for her. Because she most certainly had one. I mean, this is great feedback from Sarah, and I'm kind of looking for a little bit of a historical perspective from someone who knows. So she clearly would have had one. I like that idea better than it's just sort of a plot hole. And it makes more sense to me, I think.
Alrighty, the next one from X27 Evolution on our YouTube channel says, suppose Alex gets to Bozeman before Spencer, saying her new last name and going around town asking where the Dutton Ranch is? The town is crawling with Banner's people. Is there a kidnapping getting set up, I wonder? Oh, that's interesting.
Right? Yeah. Like, she sort of flaunts in this pretty British gal with blonde hair is like, yes, can you help me get to the Dutton Ranch? And, you know, when Clyde, my boy Clyde's like, yes, I sure can. Let me take you right to him. Left turn to Don Whitfield's house. Yeah, totally could see that happening.
Wait, I would be here for that plot line. That's fascinating and fun. I mean, not fun for her, but like fun for the viewer.
An Alex as I look for ways to sort of entice people into watching our videos, you might see an Alex kidnapping a headline coming up soon. But I digress. That's a great point, though. Thank you.
I have another one, and I love this person's handle. From Feisty Old Gal 8257 says, Alex is getting a real introduction to how most people lived compared to her shelter life before. I mean, you ain't wrong.
There was not a lot of sympathy for Alex's troubles at Ellis Island. A lot of people were basically just like, girl, it's a gynecological exam. Get over it. It happens every day. It's been happening for decades. Like, you weren't assaulted. You weren't sexually assaulted. No one was like, toughen up. So I found that a little surprising because it did seem like a bit of a unexpected, harrowing experience for her. But gritty old gals like feisty old gal were just like, come on, girl.
Suck it up.
They're like Aunt Cara slapping her across the face and giving her the what it's like to be a woman speech.
The next one we have is also from YouTube from C.S. Martin, who says, best Yellowstone actor, it's Faith or Helen. Maybe Tim in the running. Okay, I'm going to be honest. I don't think it was Faith. Helen, got you. Faith Hill girl, no.
Faith outperformed expectations.
Oh, for sure. But it wasn't like, I'm going to give you Kelly Riley before.
I would agree. I thought Faith was very good as Margaret Dutton.
I agree.
Better than a lot of actors that we've seen on the show, in fact. And Helen. So this came from a video recap we did on Monday where I sort of put that question to the audience, like, who is the best what's the best acting performance we've seen so far on this show? Kelly Riley, I think, has to be in that conversation. Helen Mirren, I think, is very good. Which men have been particularly... John Dutton, Kevin Costner's acting performance didn't ask much of him. Like, it was very good. And maybe there are some nuances that an actor might point out to sort of raise the bar there for him. But I don't know. I didn't think he was. I thought Luke Grimes was maybe a little bit of a better actor at times than John Dutton or Kevin Costner.
Luke Grimes, Cole Hauser, who plays Rip, and then I would say Harrison Ford.
Yeah.
Or
Tim was good, but Harrison Ford was better.
He might be one of those of not asking too much of him. Similar to Kevin Costner.
Yeah. Yeah, that could be good. So let us know what you think there. I'd be curious to kind of continue that conversation. But Helen and Kelly are the two that come to mind for me.
Last one I have for us is also from YouTube. It says, Season 2 has you anticipating Season 3, and there's no Season 3 planned? I think everybody in Hollywood, including streaming services, are on drugs. Nobody can be this stupid to end this series at the end of Season 2.
So a little bit of chatter now about if this show is going to continue. If you recall, Taylor Sheridan had said that this was one sort of drama split into two parts. He was very clear, and I think this was in 2022 or 23, that this was going to be 2 seasons. And I remember Helen and Harrison only signed up for a second season after season 1 had concluded. We had gotten a little bit of a note from someone in the know that now it's not confirmed that season 2 is the final season. So this is someone with someone attached to the show that hedged a little bit on that bet, that maybe there could be a season 3. I'm rooting for it just being done after 2 seasons.
I am too. However, when I interviewed Michelle Randolph, which y'all will hear in a minute, she didn't know, like when she said she was sad when the season wrapped, she didn't say I was sad when the show, like we were at the end and the show officially wrapped. Like that's how I would word that if I knew it was fully done and not just like, I'm sad this season's done.
Because if there's a season 3,
we might be picking
there's going to be someone thinking about a season 4 and then a season 5. And then we're going to start to have
Yellowstone Jr.
Right. It's not going to be as strong. Like 2 really good seasons. Boom, I'm done. That's why I was so happy about how 1883 ended. It's like 1 great season and they were done. Like there was no chance for that season, for the storyline to get watered down.
Yeah, no, that's true. Staff@tasteofcountry.com is where you can let us know your thoughts and also answer the trivia question.
I'm excited for people to hear your Michelle Randolph interview. You might remember her as Ainsley Norris on Landman as well, which I don't believe you talked about at all, but you'll hear that voice, I think, when Michelle talks. You'll hear Ainsley's voice more so than you will Elizabeth's voice,
Mm-hmm.
right? She's more like Ainsley to me than she is Elizabeth.
Yes. Well, yes. She's not as much of a spitfire as Ainsley is.
No. She's much more modest.
Yeah.
But she's
like, I think I
very
would be friends with her in real life.
Yeah. Whereas Elizabeth Stratford is a little bit more upper crust, sort of almost royalty in her own sort of way.
Yeah.
American royalty.